Well, here we are on a Friday night. And why not? We've got snow going on, or will be going on tonight in the interior Northeast. So says Joe Rayo and Joe Chaffee on the Joe and Joe Weather Show.
And I haven't had a chance yet to check out the watches and warnings that have been posted.
Well, you know what? I will bring them up on the screen, and you can describe them. They actually they actually they actually have of they. I was a little surprised, but they put winter storm warnings up for parts of for the Berkshires in Massachusetts.
Yeah,
Uh,
and I live in Putnam County, and just a stone's throw across the border up in Dutchess County, they have a winter weather advisory, I see, for something like 2 to 5 inches of snow. Although I would think, Joe, that in Dutchess County, uh, they're going to be, it's more for places like up north. I mean, in the northern end of the county, like for southern Dutchess and
mhm.
down to the Putnam line. I really don't see 2 to 5 inches of snow accumulating. And you're right, up in the Berkshires, they do have a winter storm warning as opposed to a winter weather advisory surrounding them, to the south, to the north, to the east, to the west. So that's kind of strange, isn't it, that we're talking about this on the 17th day of April?
Yeah, I was looking at some of the observations, at least through New England. Temperatures late this afternoon, this evening, they were in the 40s to near 50, probably because they had sunshine for a longer part of the day. I mean, I had full sun here up until right into early afternoon before the clouds started to roll in. And even then, it took a while it didn't go really overcast until after 3 o'clock. But this is a time of year where even though the ground temperatures can warm up, you got to remember, folks, that it can be pretty cold aloft, and under certain conditions, you could get that cold air to mix down to the surface, and that's really what's going to happen tonight. And basically, the southern boundary of this looks like it's right just north of Route 84, across Connecticut, north of you, and I would think, like you were bringing up Dutchess County specifically. I got to think that that's just going to be that's got to be elevation driven.
Yeah.
Where Terrence Cardinal Fitzgerald, who's up at 1,300 feet, I believe, he'll probably do okay with this. But the Catskills, northern PA, north of Route 6, could wind up with a decent amount. The only other thing is, Joe, that even if this could all work out, and I'll bring the snowfall forecast map up, the digital forecast from the Weather Service, which was pretty aggressive in terms of some of the numbers that they upped this afternoon. Uh, Across southern New York, Binghamton, they give 6, Syracuse 3, Albany 4, 3 in Boston, which kind of surprised me, but only an inch in Hartford, 7 inches in Litchfield County. The thing is, this will come to an end tomorrow morning. By late tomorrow afternoon, much of this is going to be gone.
Probably.
Yeah, because
Probably.
of the.
I
Go ahead.
you said Albany has what, 4 inches?
Four. And, Albany's going for 4
I
for
didn't
them.
send you my snow. I didn't send you my snow map. I did a snow map for today. I had Albany in between, in the 2 to 4 zone. I did have 4 to 6 inches for the Berkshires,
Mm-hmm.
and I did have Sullivan County. Sullivan County, I had in the lowest part of Sullivan County, the southern end, probably less than an inch.
Right.
Narrow band of 1 to 2, then central 2 to 4, and up over the elevated areas in northern Sullivan, they're in the 4 to 6 zone. So if
Well,
you
that's
want
kind
to,
of what the Weather Service has. They got a. I don't know where that is in the Catskills on the map, that they have a 12 print. They have a 12 print sandwiched in between 2 6s.
wow.
The 6 in northern Sullivan County, and then whatever that county is north of Ulster, with a 6 there, and there's a 12 in between. That's got to be for elevation. Meanwhile, in Massachusetts, 6 for Worcester. There's two separate areas of max snows because of the way the elevation works through Massachusetts. So the western part of the state and down into Litchfield County in northern Connecticut is a 6+ zone, and then there's a 4 to 6 zone that runs from the northeastern corner of Connecticut straight north, up through Worcester, and heading up into southern New Hampshire, where you got the numbers start to tail off a little bit. But you know what? Not too shabby for the time of year, really. as far as snow amounts are concerned.
Yeah, I'm trying to figure out where that 12 is specifically. My daughter
You
lives in
see where I'm
Newport.
talking about there? That where that 12 is?
Yeah, I see. I see
That's
it.
got to be some mountaintop over there.
Well, not too far from where that 12 is where the famous resort, the Mohonk Mountain
Well,
House.
maybe that's what it is.
And Mohonk, they have Skytop Mountain, uh, and they've been taking weather observations. Now, in May of 1977, they actually had over a foot of snow. When we were seeing flurries down here in New York, they had a foot of snow up at Mohonk. So it shouldn't be too surprising to see those kind of numbers being bandied about, even though we're only, he says, in the middle to latter part of April.
They're
It's
give
still possible. So
Yeah, they're giving Poughkeepsie for. I don't know. That to me is a little generous.
let's see, that's just to the west of that's west of Kingston.
Yes, whatever that is.
I'm trying to identify where that might be, but it's interesting. It's we
Yeah.
all winter long we had next to nothing, and now here we are into spring, so to speak, and we have the fours and sixes and even 12s out on snow maps.
Well, I got WPC's 72-hour probability of at least two up, and they're not the southern edge of two, the 40% line for the southern edge of two. I mean, where Poughkeepsie is sitting with the four print, WPC has got a much less bullish looking configuration here for snow amounts. Doesn't have the southern edge. I mean, if you want to use the light blue is the dark blue is a 40% probability of at least two. I mean, that's pretty far up. It's well north of Poughkeepsie.
Yeah,
In fact, on the map, they only got Poughkeepsie in the zone of about 5% probability, 1 to 5% probability of at least two. I'm going to go to eight. And actually, Joe, on the eight, there's a 1 to 5% probability. It's like, I hate to even. I'm sorry, but the way it looks like on the map, there's like this brown blotch that like as if somebody took some brown stuff and just kind of threw it and it landed on a map and it's
yeah,
splattered. Well, that's kind of
yeah.
what it looks like
With
on this one.
with the fan.
Yeah, exactly. Let's see. I just want to go for four. Okay, now for four, the west side of the the Catskills up to Binghamton, they have a 40 to 70% probability of at least four. Also in western Massachusetts and southern Vermont, and then there's an area in east central Massachusetts, like where Worcester is, where they have another max area of about 20 to 40% probability of at least four. But WPC as a whole is not. Yeah, look, this to me, I was looking at looking at the models, looking at the amount of precip generated. It really comes down to how cold is it really going to be
Right,
in the atmosphere?
right.
Is it going to be cold enough? You get evaporational cooling and you get this wet snow, this heavy wet snow that develops. Is it going to be cold enough or not? And that's a function of the hourly observations at this stage of the game.
It's and what we're talking about here, I think the steadiest precipitation will be during the overnight hours, and I think that when we get to tomorrow, whatever happens to be falling, be it rain or snow, will begin to peter out and end from southwest to northeast, beginning around 11 o'clock or noontime and carrying over into the middle part of the afternoon. And tomorrow looks like a real
Oh, okay.
whoops.
Took an internet hit. I didn't put it on the hotspot. I forgot to do that. We'll just have to take our chances.
Yeah,
You were saying it's a really drab.
yeah, kind of a. Are you there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Oh, I'm.
Yeah,
Every time you stop, every time there's like dead air.
I know.
Yeah, a drab day tomorrow. Now Sunday wouldn't be all that bad. I mean, I'm thinking of temperatures in many spots getting to 60, and there'll be a fair amount of sunshine. Maybe
I
late
agree.
we'll be seeing some clouds. The only thing about Sunday is that there'll be a rather gusty northwest breeze up to about 25 miles an hour. So let's say you decide to spend some time outside. Not bad, 60 degrees, but you're going to have to put up with that gusty wind, which will probably make it feel a lot more like 50 or 55.
Right.
But certainly of the 2 weekend days, the better of the two looks to be Sunday.
The other thing I want to bring up as far as Sunday is concerned, it looks like there might be another widespread outbreak of severe weather. The Storm Prediction Center actually expanded their risk area a bit for Sunday. The slight and enhanced risk covers a lot of ground from East Texas all the way through South Carolina, particularly the southern half of Georgia, the southern half of Alabama, southern half of Mississippi, through much of southern Louisiana, all in enhanced risk, marginal risk making it up into North Carolina until the Tennessee state line. This is different from what we saw last week with the big storm going to the Great Lakes, in that the energy here is swinging across the Gulf states and will make for a storm that's going to go off the Carolina coast and then run up northeast offshore. And it's starting to look like, Joe, I'm still going to cover for the possibility that the immediate coast might get brushed with a little bit of rain for a few hours. Although the GFS wants to suppress and keep everything offshore, and so does the NAM. The Europeans a little bit more to the northwest. I just felt that I'm going to leave in the chance that there could be a little bit of rain Sunday night into Monday morning along the immediate coast from, say, from the east, the Virginia coast up to about southern New England to Long Island. It may very well wind up being all offshore, but I just wanted to at least cover for that possibility that they might get brushed with a little bit of rain.
I agree with you. I think it's worth just saying simply now for Sunday night and Monday, rain possible or chance of showers, mainly south and east of New York City. Uh, Certainly, southern and central New Jersey have a better shot of getting wet as opposed to places, let's say, north of New York City, and also eastern Long Island, Suffolk County, the Twin Forks, as
Right.
opposed to, again, New York and areas to the north. It's possible that parts of the Hudson Valley will stay dry right on through Sunday night and Monday, although they'll probably see some cloud cover.
I got the satellite loop up tonight, and this is really there's nothing really overly impressive here, other than the fact that you're getting all this moisture that's just streaming up from the plains, running up into the northeast. The there's We don't really have that strong tropical connection here. There's going to be a little bit of Atlantic moisture getting involved. Where we're paying attention is energy that is now moving that's in Southern California. That's going to be just like we had last week. That is going to be the player that moves eastward over the weekend. Except the difference here is that the system last week kind of phased with what was going on in the northern part of the jet and went to the Great Lakes. Well, in this particular instance, where we've got the upper air is a bit different. You can see the twisting in the clouds. So this is a pretty decent shortwave in the south. This is going to be running pretty much straight east and then turning northeast once it gets off the coast. But again, it probably will be staying far enough offshore where there's no issues here. But while it's moving across the south, you are going to get some warm tropical air coming out of the Gulf of Mexico, and that sets up this area here that I just circled in red as a fairly uh, bullish area with regards to severe weather for Sunday.
Right, and hard to believe the poor folks in the southeastern states. Of course, as I mentioned yesterday, last Easter Sunday, it was a case of, for example, places in Tennessee like Chattanooga getting blasted with severe weather and tornadic activity. This time around, it looks like the area or zone of highest convection will be suppressed or shunted just a bit to the south, further to the south. So not the exact same areas getting will get hammered, but once again, in general across the southeast, it's going to be another Sunday of watching the skies and listening, I guess, for latest updates as far as possible severe storm activity is concerned.
And WPC is also pretty bullish on the heavy rain for that area. The heavy rain area really matches up very well with the risk that SPC. So there's just a reminder. So you can see there's the risk map, and now I'll just have WPC's rainfall map. and the rainfall amounts of 5 or more inches in a small area in Alabama into Georgia. This area has already been hit very hard with rains and thunderstorms as we from earlier this week. And then, of course, you've got this big stripe of rain. You see how it all is shown up offshore. That's because of the fact that the track of this low is going where it's going. Now, there are other weather systems coming next week, and that's why you see 2 inch plus liquid amounts being indicated. Now, some of that is for what's going on tonight into tomorrow morning. Not a lot of it. It's probably going to be for most areas a quarter to a half inch, maybe a little bit more as you go up into New England. But then we've got a weather front coming for Tuesday, and then a couple of other weather systems later next week, which really does look to be a pretty busy week next week.
Right. In fact, next Friday, we could be right in the throes of a very well. Actually, from what I saw on the European, Joe, the the next major weather occurrence here might be more like late Thursday night into the early or first part of Friday, and maybe by Friday afternoon, if things break our way, that will be over said and done. And then rapidly, we may get into a clearing channel. Who knows? By this time next week, we may be enjoying sunshine and temperatures approaching 70 degrees.
Well, one of the things is the weather systems are moving, which is a good thing. But we seem to be in this pattern where we maybe get 24 to 36 hours of decent weather, and then we're followed by the next weather system. So maybe, as you said, we may time out late next week when one system departs before another one maybe comes along sometime later next weekend. I want to talk to you before we talk. I want to talk to you about Tuesday, but before we do that, let's take a look at tonight's HRRR, which shows. One of the things about April snows, especially definitely for our area, but even into parts of we're at the time of year now that even in upstate New York and into interior New England, the precipitation usually tends to start off as rain until the atmospheric column can get cooled off. And here you have on the HRRR showing that precip arriving later this evening and tonight. Starts off as a little bit of rain, and then goes over to snow. I did notice that it's at least as of 7 o'clock that Scranton was snowing at 35. The HRRR does seem to have a rather large area of blue for snow across upstate New York, not too far north of us, by the way, and covering much of Connecticut. It's one of the colder models because of where it has the surface low a little bit further to the south. But it all redevelops south of Long Island, and then after tomorrow morning, all the precip just basically starts to disappear. So I think maybe by about lunchtime or early afternoon, at least all the precip will be well to the east, and we could start improving things here
And
slowly. But
when you mentioned about the fact that usually at this time of the year it starts as rain and goes to snow, reminds me again of that story I talked about a couple of weeks ago with the April 6th blizzard, how Storm Field used that reasoning, or tried to use that reasoning, that we were not going to get much snow. That to him it appeared it was going to be too warm. It was going to start as rain. Maybe it'll change over to snow. Maybe we'll have an inch or two. He was the only one who was not going for a major snowfall, and
but there were a lot of dynamics, as I remember, with the that particular April snow. That was not being
well, it's
here
true. It was
for it.
evaporational cooling kicking in and everything else. But I mean, like what made it stand out in my mind was that he literally went point by point by point as to why we weren't going to get a lot of snow here in the New York metropolitan area. And each point that he brought up, well, it's above freezing right now. It's got to be below freezing. Well, and it's going to start off as rain. Well, if it starts raining and it starts falling hard enough, evaporational cooling kicking in. Oh, and look at the relative humidity. It's so low. Yeah, good point. Humidity is so low. Guess what? When it starts raining,
Exactly.
it's going to start coming up. It still boggles my mind all these years later
I know.
that's what triggered when you mentioned the fact that at this time of the year, even upstate, it starts off as rain.
Well,
And
I
it's, you
I
know,
I I, I brought up the 850 frontogenesis map, where you could see the omega. Because
Uh-huh.
I wanted to show everybody, at least at that 850 level, we like that zero isotherm, okay,
Right.
to show where the rain snow is. And I'm just kind of drawing. I'm not doing it well, but I'm trying to follow the zero isotherm there. So that's roughly where it is at 10 o'clock tonight. So when you look up in upstate New York, when you look up into New England, this is the next blue line that shows up is -3 Celsius, and then the other one that runs across north of Albany into southern New Hampshire, that's -6. So
Wow.
that's pretty cold.
Yep.
This again, the ground temperatures can warm up into the 50s this time of year with ease, but the air aloft is a whole different story. And under certain conditions, much like what we're seeing tonight, this is why you're going to see. And if you notice, going into Connecticut, and through upstate New York, right around the Catskills during tonight, there's a lot of omega up there. And I'm this is I bet you if we looked at vertical motions off the foos, you're going to find some pretty decent vertical motions going on, and that also helps to cool the bottom of the atmosphere. And the big plus in their favor for snow is the fact that this is all happening at night. So there's
Right.
no sun angle issues clearly. Yeah, it's happening at night, and you'll probably have, where it snows hard enough, even the main roads are going to have accumulation out of this. And then, of course, once it goes by, we start to see improvement, and you see the winds here. If you look at the wind barbs, I don't know if you can see them too well, but going into tomorrow afternoon, at least at the 850 level, all the upper air winds are northerly or even northwesterly. So that should at least help facilitate some drying. Although the bottom part of the atmosphere from New York City, north and east, might still have a northeast wind, and that will probably keep cloud cover in. So this will do what it does. And I don't know, did you happen to take a look at Tuesday? Because,
Tuesday. Well, I know we have a front coming in,
yes.
and I know
And
that
go
we
ahead.
we we start with a bit of sunshine, and then I think we see a lot of clouds, and eventually some moisture coming in later Tuesday and on into Tuesday evening.
Well, I was looking at the upper air, Joe, the trough that's coming down out of Canada, that's going to be the responsible for Tuesday's system and cold front. This is rather cold air aloft, and that's a really sharp trough that swings across the northern lakes and into southeastern Canada by late Tuesday afternoon, Tuesday evening. The GFS and a few of the other models actually showing what looks like a pretty decent line of thunderstorms moving across upstate New York and through eastern Pennsylvania and through New England. I wonder whether there might be some isolated, maybe there might be a marginal risk for severe weather on Tuesday
You
out of
know,
this.
I didn't take that careful a look because I was doing a lot of other things, but I did. But you know what? I April is the month when you can have what are sometimes referred to as hailers.
Yeah.
These little bombs where you have, as you pointed out, lightning and thunder and pea-sized hail coming down. And this, yeah, you're right. This may very well be one of those situations coming up on Tuesday. I do know that skies are going to rapidly clear Tuesday night, and both tonight and also again on Tuesday night, we're going to have a couple of cold nights. I mean,
Yeah.
it was cold this morning. Here at my house, it was 29 degrees this morning.
Tuesday,
Um,
the wind, after this front goes by, does get kind of breezy. Tuesday night into Wednesday morning, there's
yeah,
a fairly decent looking high that comes down. I'm just going to check to see what the temperatures look like here. Hang on one second. Just bring up the thermodynamics. We'll bring the 2 meter temperatures. Well, I mean by Wednesday morning, the 32-degree line gets down close to the coast. I mean, that's a fairly decent shot of colder air that comes down behind it for a day or so. And then, of course, just as quickly as it comes in, it starts to pull out as we head into Thursday with the next weather system. But yeah, I was just kind of intrigued by Tuesday, and maybe the possibility that we could see a few stronger thunderstorms with this. And then going forward, just want to really quickly look at the upper air for this weekend and for this coming week, because the teleconnections are still kind of, you know, they have us with this the NAO being weekly negative on and off pretty much for the next 2 weeks, and you can see how deep the trough is here in the across North America, covering the eastern part of the United States. This is cold air. This look, I mean, this look for Sunday night, Monday in January, we'd be freezing. We'd be freezing our tuchuses off,
Oh dear.
and it was nowhere to be found.
It's amazing because again, during I mean not for the entire winter, but for the meteorological winter as a whole, that polar vortex was just right over the North Polar region. And as I mentioned once or twice on this show, if you want to use the analogy of a seltzer bottle, with the seltzer inside the bottle being the cold weather, that polar vortex literally kept the bottle capped
Yeah.
all through the course of meteorological winter. For the most part, every once in a while, you know how sometimes when you open up the bottle of seltzer after you've shaken it, and some of it will shoot out or dribble down off the sides of the bottle. That we did have a couple of shots briefly in especially around mid-February in the Midwest. They had some very cold weather, but generally the cap was kept, the bottle was kept bottled up. And now here it is April, and it looks like somebody just came along and said, "Oh, let's have some seltzer," and open
Well,
that bottle cap, and now here it is, all the cold weather.
think back to a month or so ago, or when occasionally I just brought up the 10 millibar map. This is what happens this time of year. The polar vortex has rapidly weakened, and it just continues to actually it weakens and splits. It splits in two over the next over the next 6 or 7 days, and this is part of the process of the overall atmosphere warming up. But yeah, the polar vortex is all but gone. And what happens is when that happens, there's still some colder air up in the Arctic region, and just basically gets dispersed until it's all gone, or
Right.
until it warms up enough. And that's the process that we're seeing right now. And of course, the lower atmosphere is reacting to all of this by producing what looks like a rather wintry looking pattern for the middle part of spring. And of course, we've also been dealing with this sort of blocky pattern, and looking at it from the top with that polar vortex breaking up, you wind up eventually with higher than normal pressures building across the polar regions right through the 16-day period. And the jet still stays pretty well suppressed to the south. This is mid-spring, almost mid-spring action. Lots of troughs around, lots of cutoff lows. The atmosphere is getting ready to go into priming up to eventually go into summer mode, and we're just seeing that process underway.
And you mentioned about the sun angle, and right now, the altitude of the sun at midday or
By the way,
one
you're back full screen. Go ahead.
the altitude of the sun at midday or at 1 o'clock in the afternoon, because we're on daylight time now, is equivalent to I think something like the 26th or 27th of August. So, I mean, the calendar says it's April, but the altitude of the sun is up there at late August now, and that makes it harder, I guess, for snow to stick around for more than a day
Yes.
when the sun comes out.
By the way, can you see who hit super chat? Because I can't.
I will do that just a second. And in fact, he actually, yeah, Steve
It
Lapont,
was Steve.
and he says Joe R. a coffee and Joe C. a stock gamble. And
Oh yeah, they were all
I'll
talking
use that.
stocks. We were talking. Okay, are you there? Oh, I guess he's not there. Took another one of those lovely internet hits that we've been taking lately. Let's see if we can bring Joe back. Steve, thank you so much for hitting super chat. Really appreciate it.
Joe.
Okay, now you're back. We took another internet hit. I need your camera.
Yes, let me just. Am I flicked back on now?
Now you're on. So as I
Yeah.
was saying, do you know whose birthday it is today?
Whose birthday is it? As Mrs. Briller's birthday or
No, no.
no?
Today is
Oh,
Barbara Hale's birthday.
Barbara Hale.
She would have been 97 years old.
Da, da, da.
Well, I joined this Perry Mason group on Facebook, and it's great, Joe, because they're putting up all these pictures, all these publicity pictures that they have that were
Uh-huh.
taken over the years. Even some family shots that they have and group shots. I love seeing stuff like that. They even ran an old Lucille Ball, Desi Arnaz commercial when their sponsorship changed from Philip Morris to Ford late in the series. They
Right.
they they did a Ford commercial where Lucy and Desi, and of course Lucy wants to drive the car, and there's this whole dialogue that goes on. So it's a vintage commercial that I hadn't seen. So anyway, they're that's all they're talking about today. That it's Barbara Hale's birthday.
My wife was Barbara Hale.
Your wife was Barbara Hale.
Up in when the two of us were working at a private weather forecasting firm in Linden Hill, that's in Queens, also
Right,
better known as Flushing.
right.
Um, we did a station up in Canada. It was CFCF Montreal, and for whatever reason, they didn't want to. The name of the company I worked for was CompuWeather, but instead they called it Computer Weather.
Hmm.
My wife was Renata Meklo, and that didn't go right with them. So they said we need to change that name. What's my you said what's my name going to be? And they chose Barbara Hale.
No
And so when she
kidding.
was when she did the weather in Canada, it was I'm meteorologist Barbara Hale with computer weather.
Where's Paul?
Yes,
So, Scott Briller is off tonight. He is not, he'll be back on Sunday.
yes.
So we wish him a good weekend. So we've got Timothy Veltman for Veltman Jeopardy tonight.
Veltman
Okay,
Jeff.
so you ready?
Yes, sir.
So the number of winter seasons where Albany recorded 100 inches of total. Are you still there, Joe? Okay. Sorry, we took it.
Per decade. So I'll say something like I don't know 14.
I would have thought the number would have been a high one, like you've calculated.
Yeah,
It's only three.
3 times. That's the
Yeah, only three.
real
1887, 88, 110.
right.
1970, 71, 112.5. And 2002, 2003, 105.4. I would have thought there would have been more.
70, 71. You said.
That's what he has here, 70, 71.
Boy, I tell you, I don't recall. I've got a pretty good memory of the decade of the 70s in terms of snow in the New York metropolitan area. And 70, 71 doesn't really jump out. I mean, you would figure if that Albany had 100, we probably would have had what, 40 or 50
Not
or
necessarily. I mean, look what happened last year.
yeah.
Everything was just 40 or 50 miles north and west and points north. So, maybe it's set up where much like it did last year, where the
I mean,
coast was
that's the year I graduated junior high school, and I don't
right.
remember anything fabulously
I
significant.
do remember, reading about a winter in the early 70s, 70 and 70, 70, 71. That 112.5 is obviously a record. That's their snowiest winter. So, but I remember years ago reading about that particular winter for some reason, and the rest of it escapes me. Now here's another part of
Veltman Jeopardy.
uh yes. So um this actor who's in the news today played a character named Peter Connor in a 1977 episode of this series of this. I'll give you of this detective series.
Uh-huh.
He played a character named Peter Connor in a 1977 episode of this detective series.
Would it have been Canon?
You got the network right.
CBS.
It's a CBS show.
Mannix. I'm trying to. But I'm trying to get the actor.
Okay.
The actor who played Peter Connor.
Right. Well, no. Well, are you naming the show?
Well, what's the answer? The answer has to be the name of the actor.
Okay. The answer is the name of the actor, and he's in the news today.
He was in the news today.
Yes.
Hmm. I didn't listen to the news very much.
Okay. Well, the
Uh,
show was Kojak.
okay.
Okay. And the actor, sadly, is was Brian Dennehy, who passed away at
Ah,
the age of 81 yesterday,
right.
according to the Internet Movie Database, which is one of my favorite places. 183 acting credits to his name, and the first one was on an episode of this of Kojak, playing the role of Peter Connor in a 1977 episode.
Okay. Well, I didn't know that, but he
And
certainly
Brian Dennehy was on Broadway a lot in recent
he
years.
he won he won I think several Tonys.
Yes,
He was nominated but did not get any Emmy, uh, any statues, although he was nominated multi times.
a few people who saw him on Broadway. I'm thinking it was Death of a Salesman. I could be wrong. Among other things, they said that he was just astounding in it. So
Yeah.
and I can remember him in different shows. It's very sad. And
Well, he had a good life and a
yes,
good career.
yes, which is
They'll be saying that about us in about 20 or 25 years, right?
well, we can only hope and pray.
You
Uh,
never know in this life.
no, you know. So look, we're gonna skip tomorrow as we usually do on Saturday, and we'll be back Sunday morning. This at the usual shopping time, 11 o'clock Eastern, for
Yes.
the Joe and Joe Sunday morning show, Coffee with Chaffee. So everybody have a great evening and a great weekend, or try to have a great weekend. Steve Lapointe, thanks again for hitting super chat. Thanks everybody for being here tonight, and we will see you on Sunday.
Yes.
Good night.